Hello guys, welcome back to John's Workshop, and this is episode 10, and I'm going to call this episode without any daft names or anything. I'm just going to call it the Cormak the Bandsaw. So I'll get its full name. So it's horizontal bandsaw from Cormak, and if you watch my last video where I called that back in a 200 to 1 outsider, well, the horse race is finished, and the good news is all the horses crossed the finish line, including mine. I just need to find out now whether it crossed, at the front of the field, in the middle of the field, or when everybody else had gone home at the end of the day. So that's what this video is going to be about. So we'll do an unboxing today, and I'll bring you on that journey with me, and we'll see whether it's been a good thing or a bad thing. And just before we get into that, we'll do a bit of a workshop update. There's been some arrivals of kit, and there's been some more work that I've managed to get done in the last week at various different times. So I'll give you an update. Unfortunately, the one thing I was really waiting for hasn't still arrived, which is the cable that I need to suspend the armour cable between the house and the garage. So I've still got no power in the garage. I've ordered this thing from Exeter in the UK about 6 weeks ago now. I'm sure I could have walked from Exeter to where I live in that time if I'd put my mind to it. So I really don't know what's going on. I've contacted them and they've sent me another one out in the post, but that's not arrived either. So I'm sort of beginning to wonder whether that's ever going to arrive. So I might need to go and buy another one from another supplier. So that's a bit of a shame. Still no power in here, which again makes filming difficult. I still need to rely on extension leads and lights and all the rest of it. So apologies for the lighting. When I spin round, I'll open the garage door up a little bit, so that it's not blowing the camera out. Hopefully that will get some more daylight in as I'm unboxing the bandsaw. Okay, so I'll just bring you back in a moment. We'll have a bit of a workshop update in terms of what I've been doing, and then we'll crack on with the unboxing and build of the bandsaw. Right, so we're back, guys. I'm going to give this microphone one last chance. I've had 2 goes at this now. I've got a headset that came with it, with a microphone on it. So I'm just going to try that out, and that will tell me whether it's the actual transmitter receiver unit or the actual just the microphone piece. So we'll give this headset a try. So I'm doing my best S Club 7 impression at the moment. I guess that'll only mean something to the UK viewers, but anyway. You'll see in front of you a beta or better roll cab tool cabinet that's arrived this week. Again, lots of thought went into that before purchase, lots of research. There's loads and loads of cabinets out there by various different people, and I've just read loads of comments and responses of people who've bought various things. I wanted something that was going to be good quality, that's going to last for years and years without any bother. So I've spent a little bit more money and I've bought this cabinet. So it's got 7 drawers, it's got roller bearing slides on all the drawers. It's incredibly well built. It's got a nice little worktop on it with a lip all the way around it that I can use that. I can roll the thing out when I'm working on the lathe or the mill or anywhere else, and I've got somewhere to put my measurement equipment, drawings, whatever, on the top. The toolbox next to it, the old Clark one, we've looked at that before. I've had that since I was 16. It's kind of reached the end of its life now. It's been in about 3 or 4 different companies over the years. It's been moved and moved and moved. It's done about 1,000 miles, I think, with me since I've owned it, up and down the country. It's sort of reached the end of its life, but hopefully this new cabinet will last, equally as long, and will be good quality. So that's one purchase that's arrived. Obviously the bandsaw's arrived, which I spoke about earlier, and just to the right of the bandsaw down there, just near the armour cable, all of the angle iron and box section has arrived for me to build the bench. So as soon as I've got the bandsaw set up, I can crack on with building the bench. So that's an arrival from this week. And also, if you look up, I've painted the ceilings now. I've put the last coat of paint onto the beam that needed doing. I've installed the LED battens in the ceiling, so there's one in each bay, and they're all wired in, so all the wiring's complete for that now. In terms of the consumer unit, that's all fully wired now. You know, everything's in there other than the cable coming in from the outside that I'm still waiting for. And then you'll see the wiring. I've been drawing maps of the London Underground down the side of the garage as I've been putting all the lighting circuits in, you know, on top of the power circuits. So that's all complete now. So that's all good. So things are moving on in terms of the build stuff. I'll cut this here and we'll test this new microphone out, see if it's working, and then I'll bring you back and we'll start the unboxing of the bandsaw. Right, we're back, guys. Excuse the gloves. This box has only been here for a couple of days, and with this virus and everything that's going around, I'm just taking all the precautions I can. So I've now got the gloves on and the Dafty headset, so I could be doing a Michael Jackson video very shortly. So I'll persevere with the headset. Hopefully the audio will be good enough. So let's get into the box and see what's inside. Taking it, these are the legs for the stand. We'll just get the box emptied for a start, and then we'll lay all the parts out, see what we've got. So it looks to be fairly well wrapped. No real damage. There's some decent polystyrene foam packaging, so everything looks to be well wrapped up in this sort of protective paper, which is good to stop any rust. I would imagine this is the instructions. We'll get those open shortly and see what the assembly instructions look like. It came with two spare blades as well, so I can see my microphones playing around, the lights going on and off, so apologies. So it came with two spare blades. We'll see what those look like. We'll get those undone and see. They look to be reasonable quality. And then we've got the main saw unit itself, which I would imagine is going to be quite heavy. Yes, it's very heavy. I think we'll take the box off the saw rather than saw off the box. I'll bring you back. I'll do that off camera. So we'll take the box off from around the main unit so that I can get hold of it properly, so that I can lift it and move it around. And I'll bring you back when we've done that. Okay, so the first order of the day now. I've reached the limit of my patience with this, so if anybody's thinking of buying one of these headsets, Fifine or Fifine or whatever they are, these wireless microphone units off Amazon, don't buy one. Utterly useless. Complete waste of money. I don't have the packaging anymore, and I just can't be bothered with the hassle for what it costs. It's just not worth the hassle trying trying to get money back and trying to send it back. So there's only one place that's going. It's pushed me to the limit of my tolerance, unfortunately. So this is the bin. So there you go, fee fine or fire fine. That's the best product review you're going to get from me, unfortunately. Right. So back on with the main thing, which is the bandsaw. I have found some functionality on the camera, which is time-lapse option. So what I'll do is I'll give that a try. It's all a learning curve. Apologies for the background noise, it's very windy today and I've got the garage door wide open to try and get the light in, so it's a bit windy, so apologies for that in the background. We'll have a play with the camera and the footage, and we'll bring you back when I've got the saw out, but we'll have a go with the time lapse in the meantime. Right, so we're back, guys. That's everything unboxed, so that's how it comes. So initial impressions, just having a quick look around it before we've dug too deep into anything. Just in terms of packaging, transport, things like that. So I'm just going to, this is my first proper look at it since getting everything out of the box. So the emergency stop electrical switch unit is there. Obviously not fixed to the saw properly yet. The motor shaft unit, which will have the pulleys on it that goes from the motor to the saw unit itself and through the gearbox, covered in grease. So it's all been greased up correctly. Same with the motor shaft at the back. That's got an element of grease and protection on it. There's no rust anywhere. Everything looks to be, well made. There's no scratches. There's no paint off. I'm just trying to see, just as a quick visual, the badge plate here that's poor, that's incredibly poor. It looks like it's been stuck on by somebody who had a blindfold on, if I'm honest. So yeah, the sharp corners at the sides, yeah, that's just poor. We'll just have a look at the rest of it. Don't know whether I can elevate this fully at the moment without it being on its stand. So move some of this cabling out of the way. Yeah, no, that won't go up any further than that at the moment. So I'll need to get into the stand and have a look at the stand and everything. Everything's well greased. The surfaces of the vice unit all seem well greased. It's all moving as it should. Locks up, feels fairly positive. The cast base is what you'd expect. It's a big thick cast base. It is heavy. It's I don't know what it weighs. I think it's at between 80 and 90 kilograms, I think it said on the box. So it's not light. All of that weight's in the cast base, I think. There's not too much weight in the rest of it. So initial thoughts. I had a comment from one of my subscribers, and apologies, I can't remember the name. He's in the UK. I think it may have been Chris, but I've probably got that wrong. And he thought that the saw unit itself was probably an Asian import that's been bolted on top of the base, that's the Polish bit. And having had a quick look at it, I tend to agree. I think that's exactly what we're talking about. Looking at just the way it's been, the top unit's been finished off compared to the base unit. There's a difference in how those two things have been made. But we'll see, we'll carry on. So what I'm going to do now is I'll cut the camera, I'll get the instruction booklet open, I'm then going to unwrap all of the various bits of other stuff out of the protective paper, lay them out, and just make sure firstly that all the pieces have arrived in the box that should be in the box, and then I'll bring you back as I start the build process. We'll have a bit of a discussion up front in terms of what I found in the instructions and what it says, and then we'll start the build, and I'll probably have another play with the time lapse on that and just see how that goes. And so yeah, I'll bring you back in a couple of minutes, and when I've had a read of the instructions, and we'll take it from there. Right, well with that guys, I've undone everything and laid it all out. So in the package, I've got an invoice there that's all in Polish, so I'm kind of stuck with that. There's a reasonable instruction set in English, and I've sort of been through it, and it's reasonably put together in terms of the information that's in it. You've got the usual safety precautions and things like that, the usual stuff, don't cut your fingers off and that kind of thing. Wearing proper clothes and that kind of thing, keeping the work area clean, the usual stuff that you'd expect. I did see one somewhere, there we go, wear the proper clothes and don't have loose clothing, jewellery or long hair. So I think I've done a quick risk assessment of that one, and I think I'm going to be okay. It is a 240 volt model, which is what I've ordered, which is good for the UK power supply. The only problem is it's a 240 volt model with a European plug, so you can see that in camera. So that's going to need to, I've got some adapters, but I don't fancy bulky adapters sticking out the wall, so what I'll do is whip that plug off and put a standard UK 3-pin plug on it, and then the rest of the instructions basically take you through, in reasonable detail actually, the assembly of the whole thing and how to put it all together. So I'm going to work through some of that now, and I'll start some of the build process. Interestingly, when it comes to the motor pulleys, there's a bit there about motor pulley and changing speed. The motor pulleys themselves are steel, or I think, I've not even looked at it closely, they may be cast and machine. No, they're just machined, so these are machined. Are they machined or is it cast? It might be cast actually. I think they might be cast, but they're quite weighty, which I wasn't expecting. I was expecting aluminium pulleys or something, but anyway, the quality of the surfaces where the belt runs is pretty poor. But again, I suspect this is part of the Asian input on the top end of the saw potentially. What I am noticing, the more I'm looking at it, is the bottom end, the stand and the base is it's pretty, as it looked in the pictures, it's pretty robust and pretty well made. So anyway, we'll work on through the bits. So you can see laid out there on the rag, there's all of the legs for the stand, and on closer inspection, as I've unpacked everything, there's only one bit of damage, which is on this leg. I don't know whether this is showing up on the camera, but just in this area here, obviously it's been rubbing with the leg next to it, and it's just fetched a bit of the paint off the surface. But that's the only bit of damage I've found in the whole, in the whole thing. These are about, I've not measured them, but they look to be about 1 millimetre thick angle iron. So this is for the legs. So it's fairly rigid. And like I said in the previous video, I should be able to adapt the base to put a tray on it for some storage, some additional storage. What else have we got? We've got obviously the motor pulley covers at the side there. Another casting, which is the cut-off stop, for the bar to be fed out to a stop. Again, that's a cast iron, heavy duty looking bit of kit. There's the vertical table, so this is when you're using it in a vertical as a vertical bandsaw, so you can attach this table to it as a cutting surface. The spare blades that I've already shown. A couple of wheels for the back end. On the top section there's some rubber feet and various other plastic corner pieces that I'll find out where they all fit. And a bag full of fixings to bolt it all together, and that's largely going to be for the legs, you know, the leg unit, I would imagine. So yeah, initial impressions. Up to now, the base unit, actually the base casting, the legs and everything like that look to be you know, good quality really, fairly heavy duty. The top piece, I suspect, is an imported Asian top piece, but we'll see. So I'll crack on now. I'll get the bits identified, and then we'll start the build process. And I might put another one of the time-lapse videos in. I'll play back the one I did earlier and just see if it's working and making sense, and if it's going to be watchable or not. And if it is, then I'll do another bit of a time lapse as I'm building everything together. So I'll bring you back in a while. Alright guys, we're back. I gave up with the footage of the build after about an hour. Even the camera was getting fed up and turned itself off. So it's took slightly longer than I was expecting, but we've got it built, we've got it assembled. So overall impressions, was it the last horse in the race? Probably not. In terms of the sort of Asian import saws that you'll get from, you know, most other companies, I would probably put it on a par with all of those from the actual, you know, the saw unit build at the top. I think it is all made in Poland, just based on going through in more detail in the build instructions and whatnot. They've got a full exploded diagram of all the parts. Every nut, bolt, washer and everything is all in one diagram together, including the stand. So if they were importing the top piece from another country and just sticking it on their base, I'm not so sure that they would have broken it down to that level of depth. I might be wrong. So issues I've had with the build as we've gone, there's been a few. So the pulleys, both pulleys that sit on the one on the gearbox and one on the motor on the drive shaft, neither of those fitted on the shafts. So I had to do a bit of work on those I just used a little Dremel with some little flat wheels. Just took some burrs, and generally one of them's got a keyway, and the keyway was that they put inside the pulley wasn't deburred, it was just all burred up, and there was paint inside the bore of both pulleys, which was obviously taking space up. There was some slight burrs on the shaft, so a bit of a clean up of all of those, and then a bit of grease, and they went together nicely. And then other issues with the build as I've gone through. So any tapped hole that's in the cast base was generally full of casting sand. It needed a tap out and running down the holes just to clean all the rubbish out the bottom of the holes. So once that was done, the threaded holes in the base went together okay. Just general nuts and bolts over the whole thing. I think the guy who was obviously paid to tighten bolts up was either had the day off or was on strike. So I've been over the whole thing, nipped everything up and made sure everything's tight. I've done most of the settings that I can in a sort of dry mode, if you like, without doing any cutting. So I've changed all the stop positions. So when it goes to its full back stop, it's vertical. When it comes down to its bottom stop, it's cutting out on the cutout switch. The base itself, it's pretty solid actually. I'm talking the stand unit. there was no real instructions on how to put that together and in what order, so it was just a, you know, suck it and see sort of thing and work out which bits went where. So I built it in the best sort of order that I can think of building it, and once all the nuts and bolts were tight, it's quite a sturdy base, if I'm honest. The only issue that there is, and something that I'll have to fix fairly readily once I've got a milling machine on hand, there's two bolts that come through. There's one you can see just there at the front that comes through from the sort of the stand into the cast base, and a similar one at the back that's the same. There really needs to be a spacer block in there, because obviously you can't really tighten that up with any force, because the minute you start putting any force on it, it's just distorting the steel work of the base. So they've just had a light nip for now so that I don't distort the base. Apart from that, it's gone together okay. It's just took a bit longer, and I've taken my time with it. You know, it's far better to take your time and build it properly. I've greased bits that need greasing. I've took time doing the things properly. There's still a few things that need to be done. Obviously, I need to take some cuts and understand whether it's, you know, there's a reasonable graticule on the back of the mitre showing all the degrees. So setting different angles of degrees should be okay, but obviously until that's calibrated, you don't really know what you've got. There is a stop screw here at the back behind the switch, and obviously for when you come back to zero, there is some adjustment on there. So what I'll need to do is take a couple of test cuts, stick a square over it, adjust that screw until I know that when it's bumped up against that screw, I've definitely got a perpendicular cut to the vise. So that will need a bit of setting doing. Lifting the saw unit up off the ground onto the base. That is a two-man job, or even a one-man and one-lady job. So Mrs. John's workshop had to come out and give me a lift with that. It was that would have been difficult on my own. So we got it all up and assembled. I've invalidated my warranty on day one by chopping off the useless European plug. It's no use to me. I've managed to salvage a very old 3-pin plug off something else that doesn't really get used much anymore. So I've put a 3-pin plug on. As yet we've had no power to the thing, so being as I've missed some of the build, well, all of the build if I'm honest, we'll do this bit live. So this hasn't been switched on yet, so we'll plug that in now. And as I say, I'm still working with extension leads and stuff, so just bear with me. And we'll press go and see what kind of noises it makes. Well, that's pretty good. Can't really hear anything rubbing. There's just a bit of noise coming from the blade as it's going through, but nothing that I wouldn't expect. Let's try it through its range of movement. I think that's just the that's it. No, we just need to bend that. That's just the guard on the back there, just rubbing slightly. We can just give that a bit of a tweak. But yeah, all in all, I've got that stop set there. Just drop that down, and that should cut off at the end of the stroke, which it does. So yeah, I'm pleased with that. It's ready for action, I think. I might have to do a bit of setup of the roller bearings and stuff, and I won't really know about that until I start cutting metal and sort of see what kind of shapes I get and whether there's any push off on the saw blade. This thing here, this badge plate they've put on, that's got sharp corners sticking out ready to slice your fingers off, and it's I don't like swearing on YouTube, but it's crap. That's as strong as I'll go. But it's I'm going to rip that off, and we'll either stick it on somewhere else or chuck it in the bin. But it has got the model number and all that kind of information on it, so it really needs to stay on the saw. I might even take it off and find somewhere on the base down here to stick it out the way, but that's right at the front where you're going to be lifting it and you're just going to end up slicing yourself to bits. You're going to cut yourself more than you're going to cut metal, I think, with it in its current condition. So that definitely needs some quick attention. Yeah, would I buy another machine from Cormak? That's a difficult question. I've never, all the machinery I've dealt with to date has been old English stuff, you know, heavy castings. Well, yeah, this is a heavy casting, by the way. There's some weight in it, but you know, solid old, well-built English machinery. And I know this is a 4x6 bandsaw. It's not a high-end milling machine or anything, but there's just a few things about the way it's put together and the way it's made that just sort of screams Asian sort of build. So I don't know whether the Polish have copied an Asian build and just, you know, copied it. You know, as you tip this casting upside down underneath, the finished off underside of the casting is very rough. There's areas that, you know, with 2 minutes spent could have been not nicely fettled before they sprayed it, but they're just all rough and jagged, and there's bits of casting sand left, and, you know, under the paint and things like that. So it's just attention to detail. Would I trust a milling machine from these guys? If it, you know, for a saw it doesn't matter, and that's why I took the gamble. A milling machine, I need to give it some thought, if I'm honest. We'll cut some metal, and that might help me make a decision. You know, I'm under no illusions that if I buy a Warco or an Axminster or a Chester or any of the other machines, you know, they're not Harrisons. They're not, you know, they're not Bridgeports. They're in a different class, and I know that. I understand that. And they're all going to need a little bit of work to make them good. But have I got anything better than a standard European machine? Sorry, a standard Asian import machine with this? Difficult to tell. Probably not. So I'll bring you back in a bit when we'll put a bit of steel in and give it a go and see how it cuts. And I'll bring you back when we do that. Right, so we're back, guys. I've not got lots of steel to play around with at the minute because obviously I've not really got going. I do have a lot of steel down there for the bench, but I don't want to start. Some of those lengths are quite tight with what I need to cut, so I don't want to start playing around with those too much until I've had a proper calculate of what lengths I can get out of the 3 metre lengths and plan that out properly. So, but I have found another piece of angle iron. It's sort of inch by inch, probably by a quarter or something like that, angle iron. It's about all I've got that's wide enough that I can stick a square over the end of it. I've extended both the roller supports to their narrowest position, obviously because I'm cutting something quite small. I've had a play with the vise, with the sort of quick release vise, and, you know, it's got hold of it. So we'll give it a bash then. See what happens. I'll just get a bit of oil. We'll put a bit of oil on the blade as it starts, just to make sure it's got some lube on it. So this is it. Live test. Let's see what happens. certainly easier than a hacksaw. The blade still looks good. I'll just take that out, and we'll just offer the square up to it and see what it's done. Well, that's pretty good. Yeah, even over the corner to corner. Where's the camera? There we go. Even corner to corner, that's spot on, is that? Yeah, it's run off a tiny bit that way. That's probably where it was cutting down the length before it got buried into the thick section at the bottom. That's a problem with angle iron, unfortunately. But I'm pleased with that. That's considering there's no setup been done there at all. That's just me taking it out of the box and turning it on and taking a cut. That's done pretty well. Okay, good. I'll leave it there, and I'll bring you back, and we'll just wrap the episode up for tonight. Sorry, there's not been a huge amount, but I was hoping to film the build, but anyway. What we'll do now is I'll wrap it up for tonight, and then we'll bring you back. And hopefully, it's a bank holiday in the UK tomorrow, so I'm hoping that now I've got the saw built and able to cut metal. Hopefully tomorrow now I can start cracking on with getting some lengths cut for the bench. So I'll probably do another small video of that tomorrow, and then, you know, if I get on well with that, we'll see if I actually get to do any welding tomorrow or not. But again, you know, I'm working on extension leads and stuff, so it's not really ideal to be welding, if I'm honest. It's not, you know, I'm not on a proper electrical system, unfortunately. I mean, we can give it a whirl, but I've got a feeling I might be blowing breakers or fuses or whatever, so I might need to leave that until I've got the proper power in, whenever that's gonna be. So yeah, I'll bring you back in a minute, and we'll just wrap the episode up. Right, guys. Well, I know there's been a few issues with the usual issues with sound, power, various things. I'm struggling on. We will get there. We'll get power in hopefully shortly. I've got everything ready now. So that is my unboxing and sort of build and review of the Cormak model G5012 WA bandsaw. So all in all, was it worth the money? It was comparable money to a Asian import saw. It's that similar sort of price for the same size of saw. I do think this has got some benefits, certainly in the base. The base is much sturdier. You know, I've worked these saws in the past, the Asian import ones, and I do think this base is far more sturdy than I've seen on some of the Asian sort of folded steel bases. So it's a big old heavy unit. It's not going anywhere. You know, so from that perspective, I'm quite pleased with it. I'm pretty pleased that I can stick a lump of metal in without having to do any setup. Cut a length off it, and it's square. I'm sure there will be some fine adjustment needed, and as I'm cutting things that are slightly more accurate than bits of angle iron, then if I'm cutting big diameters and stuff, that's when we'll really see if there's any run off of the blade as we go through. But certainly for now, for a sort of quick test, I'm happy with what it's done. It runs well. It's quiet. What more can I say? You know, it does what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to cut metal, and it cuts metal. So I think the money's been well spent. I'm pleased that I took a gamble now. Really, it's been worth it. It's been a bit of excitement as well, because I really didn't know what I was going to get. So I'm thankful I've got something that's It's a solid. It's a solid lump. I'm sort of pleased with that. There's bits of it that are, you know, a bit tinny and rattly, but they're all like that, and I'm sure we can do a bit of tweaking and make that good. But yeah, generally I'm pleased with it. So we'll leave it there for today. So thanks for subscribing. Thanks for watching as normal. I'm pleased that we've actually cut some metal on film, which has not happened on many of mine yet. It's all been about painting and wiring and, you know, all the rest of it. You know the story. So yeah, we've cut some metal on film. I've now got a working bandsaw, which means I can crack on with the bench. So I'll bring you back in the next episode when we're getting into the weeds of that, once I've had a bit of a tidy up of all the mess that I've made. So yeah, thanks for watching, thanks for subscribing, and we'll see you in the next video.